It's the Eagle Community Television Forum with your host, Gary Shorman.
Hi everyone, I'm Gary Shorman and welcome to the Forum on Eagle Community Television. Good to have you watching along. We'll be talking politics here, specifically Western Kansas politics, and our guest is Representative Rick Billinger, and he lives in Goodland, Kansas, but he's taking over the seat that has been left by Ralph Osmeyer, who covered the 40th district in the state of Kansas on the Senate side of things. Rick, welcome to our program.
Thank you, Gary. It's good to be here today.
Well, one of the things I know that we have viewers out there watching, they're wanting to know a little bit about your background, because I know you look across Western Kansas, the Billinger name is not uncommon. They're out there. What is your history and where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up in Park, Kansas. Some know it as Buffalo Park, Kansas.
Buffalo Park, that goes back a ways, doesn't
yes,
it?
You're right. And I grew up there and attended school at Park. And then I was in the first class to graduate from Wheatland High School at Grainfield. And after high school, I spent some time in the military. I was drafted in 1971 and spent some time in the 1st Cav 8th Engineers. And after returning from the service, I attended Colby Community College for one semester, played baseball up there, and then transferred to Fort Hays and later graduated from Fort Hays State. And while I was here in Hays, I met my wife, Rita Billinger, who was a Schmidt. Her parents lived here pretty much their whole life, and she grew up here in Hays. And we moved to Goodland, Kansas, and raised 3 children there. And I was in the mobile modular home business, and was partners with Dick Unrein and Bob Mollahan and Darrell Depperschmidt for a number of years. And then I bought that business and later sold out in, I guess it was about 1998 when I got out of that. And through the time, my wife and I got involved in farming. We have a small farm there, a little irrigation and some dry land. So we are involved in agriculture, and we had some mobile home communities and some rental properties. So I kind of got both agriculture and business on both sides.
You know, one of the things about the district that you're running for, the 40th Senate District, it's kind of an odd combination of counties. What counties are involved? Because it kind of takes a kind of swath through the northwest corner of Kansas, but it really fits perfectly into your background of Kansas.
Right, and you know, currently the 120th district,
where you're a representative.
Where I'm a representative currently is Decatur, Rollins, Cheyenne along the Nebraska border, and Sherman and Wallace along the Colorado border, and then a quarter of Thomas County. And then the Senate district would include those counties in addition to Norton, part of Phillips, Graham, Sheridan, Ellis, Trego, Gove, Logan would all be included in there. So it'd be 14 counties.
Yeah, it's a big area of Kansas, covers very rural parts of the state, as well as Hays and Fort Hays State, Goodland, Colby, and all those areas as well.
Right.
Now, you growing up in this area, agriculture, business, that sort of thing, what caused you to say, I want to be in politics? Because you ran for the first time for a representative seat in 2011. Tell us what happened there and why you decided you want to get into this.
Well, prior to that, Gary, I spent 20 years on the city commission in Goodland. So I've been involved in not only into the city politics, but you know, I was involved with the Boy Scouts and a number of other organizations, you know, that I've been involved in for a long time, and I just felt like, you know, I could maybe do some good, offer some solutions to some problems.
Were you surprised when Ralph retired? On the Republican side of things, you're the name. You were the name in that, and for people that you know that are involved in politics, I was surprised there weren't more people on the Republican side running. Were you surprised with that?
I wasn't too surprised, Gary. I wasn't sure whether or not Ralph was going to retire or not. He kind of talked about it early on, and then kind of decided that maybe he wanted to stay and try to fix the tax problem, and then he decided he wasn't going to run. And I think the reason I probably didn't have is because I think if you look at my record, I think if you look at the votes that I've taken in the 4 years I've been there, I think most people would agree with him. and I think that's probably why other Republicans didn't run.
Now, you have a candidate that's running against you on the Democratic side of things. What are the key differences between you and Mr. Herman?
Well, you know, I really don't know a whole lot about Mr. Herman. I think I've met him a couple times, fine young man. Probably what I would say, number one, would be experience. You know, I was in business for over 35 years and been in agriculture for about 30 years. I've had experience, like I mentioned, on the city commission. I've been on many boards and done a lot of things like that. I've got 4 years experience in the House, which, you know, the first 2 years, it takes you a little while just to get your feet on the ground, kind of figure out how everything works. And, you know, it's probably, that just alone makes a lot of difference, where you understand the process and you build relationships and you're able to work with, you know, both sides of the aisle. I pride myself in being pretty much in the center, where we can try to accomplish things and you can get people to help you from both sides, because one person can do nothing. You know, you have to be able to work with others there, or you're just not going to accomplish anything.
What has been your experience dealing with, I guess, representatives from the eastern side of the state? Has that been a challenge? Because Goodland's about as far west as you can get. Now, you can get farther away if you go to southwest Kansas, but you look across the state, a lot of people in Topeka think that maybe Salina is western Kansas.
Sure.
And really Goodland is, and Hayes and all of the district is. So what have you found in trying to gain cooperation from them?
You know, I've built many good relationships with our friends in Johnson County and in the east, and also Sedgwick County. And I thought that was key when I first got there, to make sure that I could build some good relationships. And I feel like I'm trusted. You know, whatever we're working on, I think they trust what I say, and I know I'm respected. And I think that's key in working with anybody, whether they be, you know, on the far left, the far right, the center. It doesn't matter where they're at. I think, like I mentioned earlier, one person can do nothing. You have to be able to work well with others and try to, you know, build on ideas. And you never get exactly what you want on anything, but you try to get good policy and try to come up with the best solutions you can.
Our guest is Representative Rick Billinger, and we're going to talk a little bit about Governor Brownback, some of the challenges that whoever is elected is going to really tackle in the next session. Back with more after this from Hayes Med.
Hayes Med is your first and best choice for healthcare. They're the only facility providing tertiary level services in this region, with more than 70 physicians and 26 specialties ranging from heart, orthopedic, spine care, cancer, obstetrics and gynecology, wound care, rehabilitation and surgery, including the Da Vinci robotic surgery. Hayes Med is your comprehensive health provider for people throughout western Kansas. Hayes Med, helping people be healthy.
Welcome back to the second half of our Forum program here on Eagle Community Television. Our Forum's brought to you by Hayes Med. If you have any questions, comments about this program, maybe ideas for future shows, be sure and let us know. Send me a note at gary.shorman@eaglecom.net. If you're also at home tonight looking at Facebook, cruise over to the ECTV Forum. You'll find us there. Make us your friend, and you can send us some comments through our Facebook page as well. Our guest is Representative Rick Billinger, and he is actually home in Goodland, here in our studios here in Hayes, talking about the 40th Senate District seat that we're looking at right now. The election is coming up in November. We talked a little bit before the program about the discussion on a debate between you and Mr. Herman. I understand you're working on one that's going to take place in October. Is that correct?
Yes. Originally, Smoky Hill TV had contacted me and talked about the middle of September, and when I called back, or when they contacted me, they said that date didn't work with Mr. Herman, so they agreed we'd just do it at sometime in October.
Well, we'll look at that as that comes forward as well. When you have a debate like that, is that something you look forward to?
You know, I don't know that I've ever had a political debate. I don't think I have, so that would be something new.
Be something interesting. Well,
right.
Let's talk about some of the debate that's going to happen back in Topeka.
Yes.
Because statewide, you go around the state, I'm sure western Kansas, eastern Kansas, any part, The discussion is how Governor Brownback's experience has been working, and I think a lot of people say not very well. How do you deal with that when you're going back to Topeka, and what has to happen to improve really not only the attitude in the state, but maybe some of the attitude about those programs?
Well, Gary, it'll be a challenge. In last year, 2015, I was in a group of 27 that tried to fix the income tax disparity, and we did bring it to the floor, and we had a vote. And I was a little disappointed that the news media didn't really pick up on it, that we even had tried to fix this. But there was 27 people that I'm very proud to say that I joined, that took on the administration. We took on special interest and tried to fix the tax deal. And Mark Hutton, who's from Wichita, one of the representatives, Stephen Johnson from Assyria down by Salina, were the ramrods that, they took most of the arrows because there was a lot of criticism in doing that. Sue Boulder here in Hayes joined us. She's one that tried to help fix it. And there are several others here in Western Kansas. I don't know if you know Troy Waymaster and a good group of people that I'm very proud to say helped try to do this. This year again, we tried again this year, and this year we had 47. And we were within 8 votes of getting it out this year.
And when you say fixing the tax plan, what does that mean?
Well, that means that, if you're an LLC, a sole proprietor, or the folks that are paying zero today, you would be put back on the tax roll. And, it's as much a fairness issue as it is a revenue deal, but we definitely need the revenue. Without the revenue, it's going to have to shift to either sales tax, property tax, or something. It takes so much money to run the state, and we can't continue to take money from KDOT or shuffle money here, or rob Peter to pay Paul. It just doesn't work. And we had some hearings this year, and we had I believe it was like 27 different business people from across the state. And I mean, we had accountants, we had business guys, we had just, oil and gas people, we had farmers, we had just a great broad spectrum of people that showed up in Topeka to testify. There were so many, it took 3 days for the hearings. And then we had, a stack, probably 3/8 thick of written testimony of folks that said, I'll just tell you one in particular, it just shocked me. The gentleman said, prior to the tax cut, I was paying around $75,000 a year. And he said, today I'm paying $1,000. He said, put me back on the tax roll. I want to make sure Kansas has money to pay the bills. And so, it was quite rewarding being part of the team that was trying to fix this. And like I said, I think across the state, most people feel like everyone should pay a little, pay their fair share and spread it out rather than, the way it is right now. Certain ones aren't. I tell this story, and I've told it even to the governor. We have several feedlots, and one's within about 3 miles of the other. One's an LLC, and they're paying zero. The other is a C Corp, and they're paying. Both feeding cattle. It's not quite fair.
Well, that's sort of the challenge. You see that's happened because it's reduced the income coming into the state, which means programs, those sort of things that the state has. And as a result, from my chair, those dollars have to come from somewhere, so they're being taken from other programs and put into the ones that are required, because there's not a big, you don't have a lot of choices on where the dollars come from and where they go to,
right.
Frankly.
And like I said, this year I was very hopeful. Like I said, we got within about 8 votes. There were 5 or 6 folks that voted with us last year that when we got down to it, they said, well, if it's not close, I may not vote for it this time because I'm worried about my race, and that's the sad part is, we get politics involved in good policy sometimes, and I don't really work that way. I'm going to do what's right for my district, what's right for the state, and I don't worry about the politics. I mean, it's just.
Were you surprised with some of the races that did have I guess, opponents, whereas some of the far-right conservative Republicans were voted out of office. Were you surprised by that? That it was?
I wasn't surprised because I've heard the same thing that you've heard, that, most people think we need to fix the tax deal. I mean, I think it was a good idea that we try to give folks, as much of their tax money back as we can, but there's a certain point in there. I happened to be there in 2011 and 2012. When I arrived in 2011, the state had a $500 million deficit and about $86 in the bank or something, 87, I don't remember what they said. But in 2012, we had about a $500 million surplus and hadn't raised taxes a penny. It was just through efficiencies and trying to find ways to make sure that we were doing the best job we could, that we weren't wasting any tax dollars. And at that time, when the income tax cut was proposed, I voted against it because it showed these deficits that we have in the last 2 years here. And originally when that tax plan was brought up by the governor, it was supposed to cut 17%. And when it went over to the Senate, it got to 100% because some of them thought they wanted to kill it. And it was, if we get it too large, they won't vote for it. Well, it passed. And then it was, well, when we get back next year, we're going to have to make some adjustments. Well, that was the same year that the judges redrew these districts that you're talking about being kind of gerrymandered. And you get 60 new people down there, and you've got a $500,000 or $500 million surplus now after 2 years. So we went from a deficit of $500 million to a surplus of over $500 million. They're thinking, well, things are wonderful. They didn't know anything about it, and they thought, well, I think everything's great.
When you look at that and you see those changes that kind of took place during that whole period, we're going through one of those years where everybody in the Senate and the House is up for election. And you're going to have a whole new group of people again. And one of the things, you have some experience there. What's it going to look like from a leadership standpoint? Because there's a lot of things up in the air right now in Topeka.
Yes, and it kind of depends on the general election, how much more change there will be, or, who comes to the top as far as leadership. I think, the president of the Senate, I don't think she'll have any trouble getting reelected. I don't know. I mean, you just don't know. But I'm guessing that she'll get reelected and run for the president again. And other than that, the vice president and several others have either retired or
were voted out.
Voted out, one or the other.
Well, if you look at the viewers out there, you have an opponent, a Democratic side. Why should they choose your name when they go to the ballot box?
Well, I think the main reason that I would give you would be that I'm there to solve problems. I'm not there to play politics. I'm going to do what's right, whether it's first off, I look after the district, and then I vote my district, I vote the state, and like I said, I will do what's right, even if it's not the most favored thing with whether it be special interest or the governor that happens to be there.
What about, there's a little bit of common sense. You grew up on a farm, I grew up on a farm, you were in Park, that's about as close to the farm as you can get. Is there any common sense in Topeka at all?
There are some, and I kind of smile at that because my palm card says I'm a common sense conservative. Common sense, you're exactly right. That is lacking at times. At times it really is, and it's sad that we, and there again, I think that's part of working together with folks, trying to come up with good solutions and good policy rather than trying to jab somebody with something.
Well, thank you for joining us on our program. Thank you for watching as well, because there is a big vote coming up. Make sure you get out to vote and do that. Our guest has been Representative Rick Billinger. He's running for the Senate seat, Senate District 40, that Ralph Ostermeyer was a part of just recently. That election is coming up in November. Make sure you vote. Thank you for being here as well.
Thank you, Gary.
I appreciate it. Thank you for watching The Forum on Eagle Community Television. Forum is brought to you by Hayes Med and by Eagle Communications, our community connected.
It's a beautiful day in our super high-speed internet great customer service neighborhood. Like you, this is where we live. In fact, our company is employee-owned, so it's our goal to improve the quality of life for everyone in our community. by delivering faster, more reliable internet, clearer, more feature-laden phone service, quality TV channels, all with the level of customer service you'd expect from people who are your neighbors. Eagle Communications. Our community connected.